Hello, my beautiful souls. My name is Nicole, and I am here to help you reconnect with your light. Today, I'd like to talk about the power of the mind. The mind is our biggest superpower, and the mind is capable of accomplishing so many things. We tend to spend so much more time focusing on our body than focusing on our mind, yet it is our mind that controls everything that takes place all around us. I'm sure many of you have heard of the term mind over matter. And why has this term become so popular? Because where the mind goes, the body follows. Think about it this way. The body is incapable of functioning without the power of the mind. If the mind ceases to work, then the body ceases to function because everything is controlled through the mind. My previous video was all about the power of meditation. And the reason why meditation is so powerful is because this is the exercise of the mind. We're told that in order to gain great health, we must exercise, sleep well, and have a healthy diet. But the thing is, we forget about just how important our mental health is. And most people, when they think about mental health, they think about people who have mental illnesses. But especially with what is going on in the world today, there is more and more need than ever before to be more aware of our mental state, to be more aware, of generally where our mind is going. In one of the previous videos, I posted about how everything is energy and that our emotions are what control, or should I say, are what set the vibrational frequency of our bodies. And so it is based on what we are putting into our mind that will dictate the way our entire life will go. And what I mean by that is everything we think about is what then ends up taking place. And this is, again, exactly what the law of attraction says. The law of attraction says that when we think about something, we acquire it. But that is a simplified version of the law of attraction, and I will be posting a video about the law of attraction and how to use it to the best of our abilities in order to manifest what it is that we hope for. But in short, what the power of the law of attraction, says is that everything we focus our mind on is what eventually comes into being. Whilst that is true, it obviously also depends on which emotions we are attaching to our thoughts. And now the thing is, what we don't realize is where our mind goes, the train of thoughts that we have in our mind on a continuous basis is what we will attract into our life. So this works both on a positive aspect and a negative aspect. And the sooner we can control our mind, the sooner we are able to control everything around us. Now, what I mean by controlling the mind is the mind is a muscle just like any other muscle in the body. And what happens is we need to cultivate our mind, because everything that is taking place around us, the mind is absorbing it. And even though we might not see it happening, or we might not register it in the moment, the mind picks it up. Now we have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is pretty much everything that is not in your conscious mind. So these are things that are stored deep within you that you might not even realize are there. This is also where our limiting beliefs lie. So we might think that we can do things, but deep down within ourselves, it might not be the case. Most of us struggle with the issues of not feeling worthy enough, not being able enough to do some of the things that we hope to do with our life. And the way that we can begin to change this is by changing the way the mind works. So, the grandfather of metaphysics stated, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. This was said by Max Planck. And why he says this is because everything lies within the power of our mind, because it is through our mind that we perceive life and the way we move through the world. The world is just as it is. It is us who give it reason. It is us who give it meaning based on the way our mind has been cultivated, based on every single thing that has happened in our life. All of our minds work differently, and this is what makes us unique. We are all just simple human beings with a head, 2 hands, 2 feet, arms, legs, nose, mouth, eyes, etc., etc. But what sets us apart is the way we use our mind. The way that we see people who succeed in life is not because they are given better opportunities, it's because their mind works differently, and obviously they're able to persevere. Yes, whilst it might be the case that some people are born into better circumstances than others, there have been many cases of people who have moved from rags to riches because of the way they use their mind, because of the way they decided to do things, all completely based on the way their mind works. People who invent things, first it appears as a creativity, oh gosh, let me go back there, sorry. First what happens is it starts off as an idea, as an imagination. And then from there, people take the steps towards making that imagination something realistic in the world. So what is your mind focusing on? Where are you putting all of your attention? Is your mind constantly focusing on all the negative things in your life? Is it focusing on all the negative things in the world? Is it focusing on all of the lack in your life, all of the things that you do not have that you wish to have? And this is the basic principles of the law of attraction, because where we put our mind is what we attract. Because remember, we are energy, and if we are constantly thinking one stream of thoughts, we're attracting those things into our lives. So even if we constantly say, oh, I don't want this, and I don't want that, and I don't want this, eventually you end up attracting that thing into your life, because that constant thought on those specific feelings and things that you don't want in your life is a certain vibrational frequency. And by you constantly thinking those thoughts, your body starts to match that frequency, and you end up attracting those things into your life. So the power is in the mind. Mind over matter first starts the thought. So for example, if I wanted to lift my hands into the air, first the idea comes in my mind, and from there on, the body follows. So you must remember that everything is within the mind. The first thing is creativity. So I've written here, fear is creativity in negative form, because this is exactly what it is. We all have creativity in our mind, all of the things that we are able to imagine. Now, the amount of time that we spend imagining all of the worst case scenarios is time that we could be spending imagining all the great things that could happen. But by focusing on the negative, we are attracting the negative into our world. Whereas when we start to daydream and have creative imagination in a positive way, then eventually these things start to attract into our world. I know for many of you it might seem far-fetched to believe that something that we think and imagine can actually come true, but this is exactly the way the world works. The person who decided to invent the mobile phone, first they had the imagination. They imagined what it would be like to have a phone that wasn't connected to a cord, that wasn't plugged into a wall. They imagined it, and then they went out of their way to find the right people who would be able to help them make this a possibility. So what are you spending your creative imagination on? Are you using your creative imagination to think about the future that you would like, the future that you hope to bring in and create for yourself? Or are you focusing on why you're not going to take the steps to make that a reality because you're fearful of all the things that might go wrong? Remember, all of the people who have succeeded today only succeeded because they were able to fail thousands and thousands of times until they were able to find that thing that worked. And then they did everything within their power to make it a reality. The next point I've written here is fear creates disease. And this is true because we are fearful of all the things that might go wrong. Think about it this way: when we were little kids, we were always able to do all sorts of crazy things, never thinking about how it might injure our body. But over time, with our parents instilling the fear into us by saying, be careful, you'll fall. Be careful, you might hurt yourself. Be careful, you'll burn yourself. Don't get too close to the stove. And the thing is, yes, there is the risk that these things could happen. But by constantly being reminded, by constantly being told that these are the things that will happen, we begin to believe that these things will happen. We begin to become so fearful of all the things that can go wrong that we spend the majority of our time focusing on all of the things that could go wrong, eventually attracting them into the body. And this is exactly what hypochondria is about. People who constantly fear getting ill, they'll go to the doctor and they'll say, oh gosh, yes, I feel that I have, my throat is sore, or oh, I've broken my back, or whatever it might be. And the thing is eventually the more they obsess about that fear, the more they're fearful that this thing will happen, the more they're attracting this into their body. And so it's super important that we be paying much more attention to the things that take place in our life, to the things that we are putting in front of our mind. Every single book we read, every single TV show we watch, every movie we watch, everything that we take in, even if we do not remember it, the mind absorbs this information, and the mind then uses the information to create the way we move through the world, to create our general pattern of thoughts, to create the way we perceive the world around us. If we're constantly watching the news, for example, and the thing is, music is one of the most powerful ways of changing our emotions and changing our state of well-being or not so well-being. And so think about when you go to a party and the DJ is playing and everybody seems like they're in a trance. That is the power of music, because everybody is set to the same frequency. Now, on a negative aspect, for example, when we watch the news, they tend to put all of these sounds that, quite honestly, I no longer watch the news because I find it extremely depressing. And whilst there are a lot of depressing things that happen in the world on a daily basis, there are also a lot of very positive things that happen in the world on a daily basis. But for some odd reason, these things never seem to make it onto the news. Why is it that it's only negative things that are always on the news? There are lots of beautiful things that happen on a daily basis, but yet we aren't aware of them because the media, for some reason, wants us to only be aware of the negative that is going on in the world. And what happens is every time we watch the news, I'm pretty certain that, you might start watching the news in quite an elevated state. You might have just had a really great conversation with a friend or a colleague or whoever might be around you about something great, and you might have been laughing, and time comes on for the news and it's a habit for you to watch the news, so you turn into your local news channel, and by the time you've finished watching the news, what happens? You feel glum and dreary, and you question why we live in such a horrible, brutal world. But for me, on the other hand, I choose to focus on all the positive things in the world, and I choose to focus my attention on all the positive things, because then that helps me to continue searching for positivity in the world rather than always focusing on negativity. So the question is, what are you focusing on? What kind of shows are you watching? What kind of books are you reading? What kind of movies are you watching? What kind of music are you listening to? Because all of these things are impacting your mind and therefore impacting the way you move through the world on a day-to-day basis. So coming back to creativity, creative imagination is in fact our superpower, because with our creative imagination, we have the power to call in amazing things, or we have the power to bring in destructive things. So it is, of course, very, very hard to get out of this negative thought pattern when it is constantly what is around us, when we are constantly being reminded how insignificant we are in this world, how unworthy we are in this world. And it isn't just what's going on day to day in the now, it's also all of the conditioning that happened to us in the future, all of the things that were repeated to us, our education system, the way we were parented, the friends that we've had. And this is why they say you are the company you keep, because if you're constantly surrounding yourself with people who are talking about negativity as opposed to surrounding yourself with people who are constantly telling you how great you are, well, this is going to continuously impact the way you see yourself and the way you move through the world. So in order to use your superpower, you must learn to cultivate the mind to work for you rather than against you. And all of the previous videos that I have posted will help you to start to use your mind for you rather than against you. And this is why it is extremely important to start to be more mindful, to start to be more aware of the things that you are allowing in your life, the things that you are allowing into your mind, because all of these things have an impact. When I was little, I remember my father would only allow me to watch about an hour's worth of TV per day, and he was very, very selective about what kind of programs we were allowed to watch. We weren't allowed to watch any kind of music videos, and because he later came to explain to us that it was because there was a lot of sexual content in these videos. And what's happening today is that there is a lot of hypersexualization in everything around us, that when you look at the children who are up until 12 years old, I see children who wear makeup and who walk around in high heels. And I remember when I was 12 years old, I wasn't thinking about any of these things. And it is the media and the content that we are absorbing that is changing the world all around us. New content that comes through changes the way we think, therefore changes the way we perceive the world. Remember, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And how do we change the way we look at things? But by changing our perspective. And how do we change our perspective? With new information. And the new information, no matter what form it's coming in, is always changing our mind and therefore changing us. The way the world has been taking place over the past year since COVID came onto the scene, well, it's safe to say that many of us have changed, because we've changed the way we see the world, because the world has changed. And as the world has changed, we were forced to get out of our autopilot mode, living from day to day in our comfort zone, being so comfortable there that we weren't willing to change the way we live our day-to-day life. And so now is an opportunity to use your mind for you, rather than looking for all the negatives of how the world has changed since COVID came onto the scene. Now is the time to use your creative imagination to start thinking about how the way the world has changed can serve you better, as opposed to bringing you down. Now, of course, at the time of me recording this, a lot of countries in Europe are very much in lockdown, and so it's of course more difficult when we don't have the comfort to be able to be outside connecting with one another. But this is where, using your mind, you can create anything you want, because you have the capacity to learn anything you wish to learn, as long as you cultivate your mind to do that. All of the people who are able to do incredible things in the world, think about athletes who are able to do incredible things. Yes, their bodies are the ones physically doing the movements, but they have trained their minds to make them believe that their body is capable of doing these things. So yes, mind over matter, because once you set your mind to something, your body will follow. So if you want to change your body, change your mind. Change the way you look at the world around you. Change the information you put into your mind. Change the way you use your mind. Be more aware of your mental state of health. Be more aware of it, because the more your mind is clear, the more your mind is at peace, the more you're capable of making rash, logical decisions that will serve you, the more you will be able to be aware of all the things that you might have previously missed before. And I urge you to go and look at that video on the power of meditation, because meditation is the exercise of the mind. It is through meditation that we are able to cultivate our garden. We are able to start to change the way our mind works. So beautiful souls, I hope this video has been of value to you. I please ask you to subscribe to the video, to like the video rather, should I say, subscribe to the channel. Please don't hesitate to get in touch if you have any questions and need guidance through this journey. Please feel free to share this video with anyone within your network who you feel will find value in it. And please continue to believe in yourselves above all else. Continue this journey of self-exploration, as it will only continue to expand you and to take you closer to the person that you wish to be. So I send you love and light, beautiful souls. I wish you a beautiful week, and I look forward to connecting with you again very soon. Love and light. Bye-bye.